Somewhere out there, right now, someone is checking their investment account on their lunch break and they're about to notice something strange. Last month, they put in $1,000, same as always, but their account grew by $2,300. The market just contributed more to their wealth than they did. Their money out-earned their effort. And here's the part that should mess with your head a little. For the first 6 years, that exact same account felt completely broken, slow, pointless, like pushing a boulder that refused to move. Nothing about their strategy changed, not their income, not their contributions, not the funds they picked. The only thing that changed is that they crossed a number. One specific number where the math quietly switches sides and starts working for you instead of making you do all the work. My name is Nick, and today I'm going to show you exactly why that number is $100,000 when the flip actually happens and what it turns into even if you never invest another dime. So leave a like and let's start. Let me tell you about someone we'll call Marcus. Marcus is 27. He read all the right books. He opened a brokerage account and he started putting in $1,000 every single month into a boring index fund. No crypto, no meme stocks, no options trading at 2 a.m. Just the responsible, adult, vegetables of investing approach everyone told him to take. And after his first full year of doing everything right, you know what his account showed? About $12,400. He contributed $12,000 of that himself, which means the famous, magical, life-changing power of compound interest earned him roughly $400. $400. That's a tank of gas and a Costco run. Marcus spent 12 months sacrificing dinners out, driving a car with a mysterious rattle, and saying no to a trip with his friends, and the market's contribution to his future was basically a decent pair of sneakers. And this is the moment where most people quit. Because nobody warns you about this part. Every compound interest chart you've ever seen shows that beautiful hockey stick curve bending toward the sky. What they don't tell you is that you have to live inside the flat part for years. In year one, 97% of Marcus's growth came from his own paycheck. He wasn't building wealth. He was just moving money from one pocket to another pocket that's harder to reach. And his brain, like every human brain, looked at that and said, this is a scam. We're wired to extrapolate in straight lines. We see $400 of growth in year one, and we assume year 30 looks like $400 times 30. It doesn't, not even close, but your brain doesn't know that, which is why so many people abandon the plan right before it starts working. And I want to be real with you about what those early years actually feel like, because the charts never show this part. It feels like watching your friend post stories from Tulum while you transfer another $1,000 into a number on a screen. It feels like checking your account after a great month for the market and realizing your gain wouldn't cover a car payment. It feels like explaining to your family at Thanksgiving that yes, you have money and no, you can't touch it, and watching them look at you like you've joined a very boring cult. Year two, Marcus has 25,000 and change. Year three, around 40,000. Year four, 55. The progress is real, but it's almost entirely his own deposits staring back at him. He's basically paying himself a second rent. Now meet his coworker, Dana. Same age, same salary, started investing the same month Marcus did. In year three, Dana looks at her $40,000, does the math on how long this is going to take, and decides the whole thing is pointless. She cashes out, puts 20 down on a new SUV, and spends the rest on a kitchen renovation her landlord technically owns. And here's the brutal part. In the moment, Dana looks smarter. She has the nicer car. She has the marble countertops. Marcus has a spreadsheet. For about a decade, every visible scoreboard says Dana is winning. The problem is that the scoreboard that matters is invisible, and it doesn't update in real time. That 40,000 she pulled at 28, left alone at 10%, it was on track to become roughly 1.3 million by 65. She didn't buy an SUV. She bought the most expensive kitchen in the neighborhood. She just won't get the bill for 37 years. There's a reason Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's late business partner and possibly the most quotable, grumpy old man in financial history, gave the advice he gave. At a Berkshire shareholder meeting back in the 90s, someone asked him about building wealth, and his answer became legendary. The first $100,000 is a bitch, but you gotta do it. I don't care what you have to do. If it means walking everywhere and not eating anything that wasn't purchased with a coupon, find a way to get your hands on $100,000. After that, you can ease off the gas a little bit. Now, this is a billionaire telling people to clip coupons, which is a little like a fish giving you swimming lessons. But here's the thing. Munger wasn't being dramatic. He was describing a real mathematical threshold. He just never explained the math behind it. So that's what we're doing today, because once you see it, you can never unsee it. Here's the mechanism, and I want you to really get this because this one idea explains everything else in this video. At any given moment, your wealth is growing from two engines. Engine one is you, your paycheck, your discipline, the money you physically move into the account every month. Engine two is the market, the return your existing money generates on its own. In the beginning, engine one does basically everything, but engine two has a weird property. It gets stronger every single year automatically without you lifting a finger because it's a percentage of an ever-growing pile. And there is a specific calculable moment when engine two overtakes engine one, when the market starts contributing more to your net worth every year than you do. Want to know where that crossover happens? Take your annual contribution and divide it by your expected return. If you invest $1,000 a month, that's $12,000 a year, divide that by a 7% return, and you get roughly $170,000. That's the line. Below it, you are the engine. Above it, you're the passenger. And at a 10% return, that crossover drops to $120,000. So the first 100K isn't some arbitrary round number that sounds nice in a YouTube title. It's the on-ramp to the exact zone where your money's salary starts beating your contributions. Think about how insane that is for a second. There is a version of you in the future whose investment account has a better work ethic than they do. It doesn't sleep, it doesn't take vacations, and it has never once complained about a Monday. Now let me show you what this does to the timeline, because this is where the math stops being interesting and starts being genuinely unfair in your favor for once. Let's stick with Marcus. $1,000 a month, 7% average annual return. His first $100,000 takes about 6.6 years, 6.6 years of grinding for the privilege of a six-figure account. But the second $100,000, 4.5 years. The third takes 3.4. The fourth, about 2.7. The fifth, 2.3. And here's the one that breaks people's brains. The final 100,000, the one that takes him from 900,000 to a full million, takes about 1.3 years. Same guy, same $1,000 a month, same boring index fund. The first 100K took him over 6 years. The last one took 15 months. He didn't get smarter. He didn't get a raise. The math just took over 5 times faster for the identical monthly habit. And if you bump that return to 10%, which is roughly what the S&P 500 has averaged over the last century, the whole ladder compresses even more. First 100K in about 6 years, from 900,000 to a million in 12 months flat. At that point, your portfolio is generating $100,000 a year on its own, which means your money is out-earning the median American household. Your spreadsheet has a better salary than most people with a college degree. Let that sink in. But here's where it gets even better, and honestly, this is my favorite part of the entire video. Everything I just showed you assumes you keep contributing. Now let's see what happens if you just stop completely. Let's say you grind your way to $100,000 by age 30, and then you never invest another cent. You spend the rest of your life buying whatever overpriced coffee you want. At a 7% return, that untouched 100K becomes roughly $1.07 million by age 65. At 10%, it becomes about $2.8 million. From $100,000 and 3.5 decades of doing absolutely nothing. That's the rule of 72 doing its thing. Divide 72 by your return and you get your doubling time. At 10%, your money doubles every 7.2 years. So 100 becomes 200, becomes 400, becomes 800, becomes 1.6 million. It's not magic, it's just doubling, stacked on doubling, stacked on doubling, which also means the cost of delay is absolutely savage. Hit that 100K at 25 instead of 35, and at a 10% return, the difference by age 65 is 4.5 million versus 1.7 million. Same milestone, same effort, 10 years of difference in timing, and the math hands one person an extra $2.8 million. Nobody worked harder for that gap. The calendar did it. Time is the only ingredient in this recipe you cannot buy more of. Borrow or substitute, which is why the smartest financial move most people will ever make is simply starting earlier than feels comfortable. By the way, real quick, I opened a completely free community where I show you exactly how I build and scale YouTube channels like this one step by step, even if you're starting from zero. It's honestly one of the best income skills you can stack in this economy, and the math of an extra income stream beats any budgeting trick in this video. Link is below. Okay, back to it. Now, before you sprint off to a compound interest calculator and start planning your retirement yacht, we need to have an honest conversation, because there are a few things the finance bros leave out when they post that hockey stick chart, and I refuse to be one of them. First, the uncomfortable reality of who actually gets here. According to the Federal Reserve's own survey data, only about 1 in 4 American households has $100,000 or more in retirement accounts. Roughly 46% have zero, nothing. And the median 401k balance across all participants per Vanguard's latest data, about $38,000. Meanwhile, the average is around $148,000, and that gap between median and average tells you everything. A small group of large accounts is dragging the average up, while the typical person is nowhere near the crossover. And it's not because people are lazy or stupid. The personal saving rate in America right now is about 3.5%. Back in the 60s and 70s, it averaged nearly 12%. On today's median household income of about $84,000, saving 3.5% gets you to your first 100K in roughly 19 years. The system isn't exactly rolling out a red carpet here. So if you're behind, you're not failing. You're playing a game with the difficulty cranked up. The math still works the same for you. It just asks more of you up front, which is exactly why knowing this stuff matters more, not less. Second, that 10% average return, it's real, but it's also kind of a lie. The S&P 500 has averaged around 10% a year since 1928, but in those 97 years, you know how many individual years actually return something between 8 and 12%? 5. 5 years out of 97. The average is what you get after the plus 24% years and the minus 37% years cancel each other out. 1 out of every 4 years has been negative. There was an entire decade, 2000 to 2009, where the market returned basically nothing. So when I say 7 or 10%, understand that's the long run cruise speed, not a promise for your specific next 5 years. You will live through years where your account drops and the crossover point feels like it's running away from you. That's not the math breaking, that's the toll booth on the road. The data is brutally clear that the people who win are simply the ones who don't get out of the car. And third, the inflation thing, because someone in the comments is already typing it. Munger said 100,000 in the mid-90s, like adjusted for inflation, that's about 211,000 in today's dollars. So is the real modern milestone 200K? Honestly, kind of, yes. If you want the exact same firepower Munger was describing, aim higher. But here's why the 100K framing still holds up. The crossover isn't about a specific dollar amount. It's about the moment your portfolio's annual return passes your annual contribution. For most people saving a realistic amount, that flip starts happening in the low to mid 6 figures. The first 100K is where you can feel the curve start to bend. The principle is timeless. The sticker just got more expensive like everything else. Now here's a plot twist nobody talks about. Some people hit $100,000 and then stall completely. They camp at the base of the mountain right when the climb gets easy. And it's almost never a market problem. It's a lifestyle problem. Hitting six figures in your account feels like permission. Permission to lease the German car. Permission to upgrade to the apartment with the gym you'll use twice. Permission to stop contributing for a while because, hey, you made it, and every one of those choices does the same thing. It pulls fuel out of engine 2 right as it's revving up. Munger had a rule for this too, and it might be his most important one. The first rule of compounding is never interrupted unnecessarily. Every dollar you pull out of a $100,000 account at age 30 isn't a dollar. At a 10% return, it's $28 you just took from 65-year-old you. That $10,000 upgrade isn't 10 grand, it's 280,000 future dollars wearing a clever disguise. I'm not saying never enjoy your money. I'm saying know the real price tag before you swipe. So, what actually gets you to the crossover faster? Here's where I save you from the biggest trap in personal finance content. Before 100K, your return barely matters. I know, controversial, but run the numbers. If you have 20,000 invested and you spend 40 hours researching to squeeze out 1 extra percent of return, congratulations. You made $200. If you'd spent that energy finding $200 extra a month to invest, that's $2,400 a year, 12 times the impact. Below the crossover, your savings rate is the entire game. Your fund selection is a rounding error, so automate the contribution the day your paycheck lands before your brain gets a vote. Pick a boring, low-cost, broad index fund and watch the fees, because a 1% advisory fee sounds adorable until you realize it can quietly eat around a quarter of your lifetime returns. Then, and this is the hard part, ignore the account. Check it quarterly, not daily. The flat years are not a malfunction. They're the price of admission, and most people refuse to pay it, which is exactly why only 1 in 4 households ever collects the prize. Let me land this plane with one last piece of math because it's my favorite stat in all of finance. Warren Buffett is worth well over $100 billion. Want to guess how much of that he had at age 65? About 3%. 97% of one of the largest fortunes in human history showed up after the age most people retire. And Buffett isn't even the best investor alive by annual return, not by a long shot. Other fund managers have tripled his percentage. His actual superpower is that he started at age 10 and never stopped. He found his 100K early and then he let the doubling stack for 8 decades. As he put it, life is like a snowball. The important thing is finding wet snow and a really long hill. You don't need his stock picking talent, you need his hill, and the hill is just time. So here's the whole video in 3 sentences. The first $100,000 is slow, ugly, and almost entirely powered by your own sacrifice, and that's precisely why most people never finish it. But hidden inside that grind is a crossover point where the market quietly takes over the heavy lifting. Every 100K arrives faster than the last, and a single untouched 100 grand at 30 becomes a 7-figure retirement all by itself. The math was never broken during the slow years. It was loading. Your only job is to still be standing there when it finishes. Oh, and one more thing before you go. If watching this made you think, wait, making videos like this is a real business, you're right, it is. If watching this made you think, wait, making videos like this is a real business, you're right, it is. I opened a school community where I break down exactly how I create and scale faceless YouTube channels, the same strategies from over 10 successful channels, monetization and all, and I'll help you step by step. YouTube is honestly one of the best opportunities of 2026 if it's done right, and the door's open. Link is in the description. I'm waiting for you. Just a reminder, I'm not a financial advisor. This video is for educational purposes only, and any results depend on your own decisions and actions.